with people like the Dolans, Mac Tonys, Nick Redfern, and yourself. I think we're going to be in pretty good shape. The merging of ufology, paranormal, cryptozoology, and just about everything else weird and unexplainable you can think of seems to be the best thing to happen in years, for all the genres and subgenres of esoterica. Yes, the future looks bright. Onward to the real issue. Tim, bring back the yeah-yeahs. I miss 'em. We all do. I believe I understand your reasoning. Perhaps a few bad letters, perhaps a need to appear more professional, etc. But the yeah-yeahs have become, well, almost a trademark, emblematic of a new generation's dizzying enthusiasm for the topics at hand. Please kindly consider this request as purely constructive, and to just give it some thought. Keep up the good work. Sincerely, James, in Washington. There you go. Thank you for writing in, James. Congratulations on being the debut letter for this season's BOA Audio listener feedback. It wouldn't be BOA Audio listener feedback if we didn't bring up the classic debate from Season 2, and that is, of course, the yeah-yeahs. Last season, someone wrote in telling me to stop saying yeah when the guest was talking. I responded, of course, to explain why that sort of thing happens, and did my best to remove some of the yahs in future interviews until I got this email here from James regarding the yeah-yeahs. As such, I've gone out of my way to include a few yahs here and there in the interviews that are coming up, and a few mms, and also, of course, my trademark wow. Those will all be in future interviews, so don't worry, the yahs and the wows aren't going anywhere. They're still going to be a part of the program. Although I will say that I've noticed that I've cut back on saying yeah in general during the interviews, so there's nothing really to remove from the interviews because I just don't say it as much anymore. But maybe this letter will spur me on to bring back the yahs. I can't think of a better way to kick off BOA Audio listener feedback than the big yeah debate. Thank you, James, for the kudos and props on the beginning of Season 3. Stick around. It's only going to get better from here on out. We've got some tremendous interviews already taped that will be coming to your ears and computers in the not-too-distant future. If you want to be a part of BOA Audio listener feedback, go to binallofamerica.com, click the contact button on the left-hand side of the screen. That'll bring you to the BOA contact page. Or, even easier, just send your emails to boaaudio@hotmail.com, boaaudio@hotmail.com. Either one of those methods puts your correspondence on the road to BOA Audio listener feedback. Up next, it is the credits portion of the program. Big thanks to the fantastic binallofamerica.com staff. Leslie, Chiron, R. Lee, Joe V., and Tina Senna for your help and support with the audio series and the website. Tons of stuff going on over at BOA this past week. Both R. Lee and Leslie had takes on this growing disclosure movement in the past couple weeks in the world of ufology. Leslie had some in-depth coverage of the CNN Larry King episode that covered the UFO witnesses, and Regan had her take on all of the crazy events in the last couple weeks with regards to UFO disclosure, press conferences, and media coverage. Later on in the week, Chiron covered the 9/11 Truth movement and what seems to have become the latest trend in that movement, and that is the public disruption methodology that seems to have swept the 9/11 Truth movement. Chiron has his take on what that's all about and what it might mean long-term for the 9/11 Truth movement. So as you can see, there is top-notch reading material, opinion columns, and coverage of the world of esoterica at large via the fantastic BOA writing staff. Leslie, Chiron, Arlie, Jovi, and Tina Senna. As we say week in and week out here on the program, if you're only listening to BOA Audio and you're not reading the columns at the website, you're only getting half the story. If you are a long-time BOA Audio listener or an appreciative newcomer and you want to help support the audio series and the website, there's a way you can do that. You go to binallofamerica.com, click the PayPal button, and you make a donation. No donation is too small, and all donations go towards keeping the website and the podcast up and running, freely available, and ad-free for all of our great listeners the world over. Now, we've been teasing all new merchandise from binallofamerica.com. The BOA line, I am happy to report, will be unveiled at BOA this coming Friday, the Friday after Thanksgiving, known by those in the know as Black Friday. We have put a ton of effort into these designs. I will discuss them more in depth next week after they've been unveiled, but suffice it to say, I feel that they capture the message of the BOA audio listeners, what they want to convey to people out there in the real world. It's not standard BOA merchandise. It's not just straight banalofamerica.com stuff. It's paranormal merchandise with a special message, and hopefully the listeners of this great program will dig it and pick up some of the merchandise and help throw some change into the bucket of BOA so we can keep the franchise growing and evolving in the weeks, months, and years to come. Stay tuned to banalofamerica.com this coming Friday, Black Friday, for the BOA line's grand unveiling. Last bit of business we have to take care of, and that's the preview for next week's program. This one is going to be an awesome episode. It is the first two-parter of the season. Our guest is Keith Chester, author of Strange Company, Military Encounters with UFOs in World War II, which details the often overlooked but critically important Foo Fighter era in ufology. In this installment, we're going to cover the surprising variety of actual Foo Fighter objects that were reported to be seen, how the Allied forces investigated the Foo Fighters, notable figures from that era, 10 key Foo Fighter cases will be discussed in detail, and we'll be covering the explosion of the Foo Fighter story on American shores. And all that is just part one of this marathon conversation. This is an intensely thorough edition of BOA Audio where you're almost guaranteed to walk away having heard something new, and it definitely constitutes a must-hear episode for any serious student of ufology. Keith Chester, part 1 of 2, talking about Strange Company, Military Encounters with UFOs in World War II, the Foo Fighter era of ufology, in tremendous detail, top to bottom, next week on Banal of America Audio Season 3. And on that note, there's not much left to say, my friends. I want to wish all of our great American listeners a fantastic Thanksgiving holiday. Have a wonderful time with your families. Enjoy the meals. Enjoy the time to kick back and relax. I hope you all have a great Thanksgiving. We'll be back next week with more underground, esoteric audio as only BOA can provide. Until then, this is Tim Banal, thanking you for listening and signing off.
Here we are in the Writers and Illustrators of the Future Lounge at the Author Services Building in Hollywood. It contains a gallery of the writer and illustrator judges, a selection of the awards the contests have received, a library containing novels and art books published by winners and judges, and a selection of photos of some of our beloved keynote speakers and guests. For nearly 4 decades, L. Ron Hubbard's Writers of the Future contest has discovered and nurtured a steady stream of new authors and artists who have changed the face of science fiction. Chosen by an impressive panel of judges, drawn from the biggest names in the genre, contest winners are given the best possible foundation for a long-standing career. Now in its 3rd year, the Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast continues to provide advice and tips from contest judges, industry professionals, and contest winners for writers and artists wanting to take their next step, along with needed inspiration to keep on going. If you are already a regular listener of this podcast, I thank you. If you are new to it, I welcome you to the weekly installment of the Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast. This is John Goodwin, your host.
We're far from understanding it all, so.
I can start this one, Signs of Air Abduction. We are live.
Joe, could you tell us some of the alien abduction, how people can kind of look back in their recent or, old past and see if they might have been abducted or this may be going on? I guess this is mainly for abductees who don't really know yet, but what are the signs?
Well, actually, that's a damn good question because, this is something we talk about all the time. What are signs of alien abduction? Well, first off, scratches, scars, or triangle or circular marks that didn't leave a scar and you have no idea where they came from. Some people will find scoop marks on their bodies, and they look like scoop marks. There's a embedded place in your body. It's like someone scooped something out. There's no scar, there's no scab, there's no blood, there's no nothing. It's not even red. You wake up that morning, you're like, where the hell did this come from? Now, sometimes there will be physical pain marks, like there'll be triangles burnt into the skin that actually leave a burn mark, and then it goes away and the triangle's still there. or there'll be like pinpricks and pokes. These are physical signs that you've probably been taken. Also, what we were talking about earlier in some of the other shows was about dreams. When you start, if you alien dream, big deal. Now, if you watch an alien sci-fi show and you have an alien dream, okay, you're not a contactee, all right? But if you're just an everyday normal person and you find yourself dreaming about aliens all the time, or being drawn to the paranormal, or you possess empathic or telepathic abilities, odds are you're an abductee. I have never met an empath ever that's not an abductee, not one to date. Even these so-called famous paranormal people who do psychic readings and all, when I meet them and put them through the test, no, they are abductees. Some of them deal with it, some of them don't. But it's one of the gifts from ET is the empathic, telepathic abilities. I really don't think anybody has any real abilities on this planet at all, unless they are a contactee or an abductee. I don't. Even if the everyday person does have some remnants of psychic abilities in them, I don't think it'll ever be near as powerful as